discovered the incredible truth: Soldier and K9 uncover a hidden bond with a little girl in need. Jake stepped into the familiar but foreign streets of Maplewood, his heart heavy with shadows of the past. The air felt thick with unspoken judgments, the whispering leaves echoing the doubts that crept through his mind. Max, his loyal K9 partner, walked closely beside him, sensing the weight of turmoil that had followed Jake home from war, a burden that felt even more insurmountable than the battles fought overseas. As he strolled past the homes he once knew, memories surged. The laughter of children playing in yards, the scent of grilled meals wafting through open windows, they felt like forgotten realities. The town that had molded him seemed lost in time, and he was a ghost hovering between two worlds. His combat experience hung like a dark cloud, and Jake couldn't shake the feeling that Maplewood only saw him as a reminder of conflict and despair. While walking Max through the neighborhoods, he caught sight of a little girl named Lily, her laughter rising like sunlight breaking through overcast skies. She danced and spun in her front yard, her joy infectious, illuminating the darkness that clung to him. Maybe this was a sign. But as he approached, uncertainty gripped him. Would she see a soldier, or simply a man marked by scars invisible to the eye? "Hi." Lily's bright eyes sparkled with curiosity. Her spirit was like a moth to a flame, daring him to step closer. "What's your dog's name?" "Max," Jake replied, forcing a smile, feeling warmth spread through him for the first time in months. They talked, and Jake was enchanted by her dreams of becoming a vet, of helping her family. She told him of her father's accident and the struggle that followed, the weight of which settled heavily on Jake's shoulders. He understood what it meant to protect family, to feel the pressure of trying to hold it all together, a feeling all too familiar. Silent resolution rose in him, compelling him to help, but uncertainty twisted in his gut. Could he really make a difference to someone who needed it? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Lily's aspirations clashed with his own nagging doubts, growing louder as whispers in town circled like vultures. Outsider. Troublemaker. The very fabric of his being felt unraveling. He was haunted by the stigma of his service, still bitter about being seen as someone who could somehow disturb the equilibrium of life they had built without him. Every smile exchanged with Lily felt like a betrayal to his past, urging him to flee, yet her warmth anchored him. Each day he paired with her, the girl shone brighter, yet shadows loomed larger. The lines between his fractured military identity and a desire to connect deepened. He felt like he was fighting two conflicting battles, the one for Lily's family and the one against the disapproval that shadowed his every move. The need to help collided with the fear of rejection, the past clawing at his mind as he steeled himself to face a community that had moved forward without him. On the edge of town, Max led Jake to an old barn, filled with dust and whispers of history. Documents inside revealed old ties between Jake's lineage and Lily's family, betrayals, rivalries long buried. The past buried, now unearthed, sent Jake spiraling. What if all he thought he knew was a mirage? His heart raced, caught between hope and the fear of confronting a legacy steeped in distrust. Would he rise or fall beneath the weight of his own past? Could he build a bridge to light amidst the shadows, or was he destined to be alone in this struggle? The irreversible pressure mounted. He stood at the precipice of change, wondering if anyone would see the value he had yet to discover within himself. The clock ticked for another meeting, the stakes higher than ever. Would any ounce of good ever overshadow the burden that had traveled back with him to Maplewood? Jake awoke the next day with Max curled at his feet, the weight of the night's revelation still pressing heavily on his chest. The barn and its secrets toyed with his mind, like ghosts lingering in the corners of his memory. He stared at the ceiling, wondering how many of those buried feelings could resurface as he sought to forge a new path in a town that only remembered him as the soldier who returned home broken. Determination sparked within him as the morning light began to breach the horizon. Today, he would not only face his stigmas but seek the truth of those documents he'd found. Would confronting the connection between his family and Lily's breed resentment, or could it reveal an opportunity for healing? Jake leashed Max and set off for the barn, heart pounding with anxiety and anticipation. When he arrived, the creaky door complained as he pushed it open. Dust motes danced in the sunlight streaming inside, transforming the space into a realm worthy of exploration. He moved deliberately, recalling the documents that whispered of a long-ago feud. Each line he read conjured the specter of animosity that washed over 2 generations' family names marred by mistrust that resonated with his own perceived failures. The lesson from the past was clear: they had let the divide dictate their choices. His resolve strengthened, he vowed not to let the same fate trap him. Digging through the remnants of the family feud, Jake noticed an old photo tucked beneath torn papers. 2 faces stared back, a man and a woman, both with features that mirrored his own. They radiated happiness, families united before conflict ripped them apart. Grasping the photo gave him a sense of belonging he had not felt since returning. It ignited a sense of responsibility. Could he mend what had been broken? But first, he needed to challenge the patterns of the past. Jake felt a familiar pull to Lily, whose innocent curiosity was the light drawing him towards healing. Would she be willing to let him in despite his past? The memories of her laughter echoed in his mind, buoying his spirits even when doubt loomed menacingly. Later that day, he found her playing alone in her yard, drawing sketches in the dirt with a stick. As he approached, uncertainty crept back in, anxiety clawing at his resolve. "Hey, Lily," he called, his voice steady but laced with vulnerability. "Can I join you?" "Sure," she exclaimed, her joy lighting up like the rays of sunshine. "Look, I'm drawing my future clinic for pets." His heart softened at her spirit, the image of a young girl who believed she could change the world with the simplest of dreams. He knelt beside her, sharing the past as he hesitantly revealed the photo. With every word, he offered a glimpse into his family history, a tale they had shared long before the bitterness overtook them. Lily listened intently, the weight of each sentence binding their fates together. "Sometimes you have to try to fix what's broken," she said, as if channeling the wisdom of someone far beyond her years. Jake marveled at her insight. Her childlike understanding became a balm to his hurting heart and reinforced his responsibility to confront the shadow of hatred that hung over their families. He could feel a shift within himself, a willingness to break the chains of shame and pave a different road. Fueled by his newfound clarity, he found himself drafting a plan. He needed to approach Lily's family, a confrontation to build a new legacy, one built on compassion and understanding. It was a dangerous move, fraught with doubts, but it was the only path forward. The following day would be crucial. Jake had an appointment that might determine not just his future, but potentially shape the trajectory for both families. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the shadows loomed large as he prepared for what might very well be an ambush. But what if they welcomed him instead? Could the truth he unearths redefine everything in Maplewood? The dawn of a new beginning appeared mysterious yet thrilling, the kind of change that offered the promise of redemption. He drew a deep breath, realizing he stood on the edge of something monumental. Would he bridge the gap, or would the weight of history consume him once more? Tomorrow would reveal the ultimate test. The time had come to face not only his fears but the legacy he could choose for himself. Jake spent the night pacing the small, familiar confines of his home. The crumpled photo of his ancestors taunted him from the table, a reminder of the unresolved family history he was about to confront. He stared into the dark, contemplating the meeting ahead. The uncertainty gnawed at him, but he couldn't afford to back down. This was about more than just him, it was about bridging a rift that had long set 2 families apart. Morning dawned with a blood-red sky, casting an ominous hue over Maplewood. His palms were slick with sweat as he dressed, the weight of expectation an albatross around his neck. Today, he needed to embody courage. He had to summon the strength to redefine his identity. The mirror reflected not just a soldier but a man ready to disrupt the cycle of bitterness. As he walked through the town to Lily's home, he couldn't shake the thoughts that flooded his mind, the murmurs of betrayal, the shadows surrounding his family's name. However, Lily's innocence served as a beacon, illuminating the dark corners of his thoughts. If he could just convey that this wasn't about vengeance but healing, maybe, just maybe, he could rewrite a chapter of his life that felt so heavy with grief. Arriving on the porch of the home family's house, he hesitated. Doubts swirled within, echoing memories of uncomfortable conversations that had left scars on his spirit. What if they simply cast him as the villain their history painted? Tightening the grip on his own resolve, he knocked, each tap reverberating with the gravity of his mission. The door creaked open, and there stood Mrs. Home, her expression a mixture of surprise and wariness. "Jake," she acknowledged, her tone cautious. "What brings you here?" "Ma'am," he began, surprised at how steady his voice was. He took a breath. "I need to talk to you and Mr. Home. It's about our families. There are things I believe we must face together." She eyed him carefully, her brows knitting together. "You mean about the past?" "Yes, ma'am," he replied, steadier than he felt. He hadn't spoken so candidly in a long time, each word a step further into unfamiliar territory. "I found some documents that tell a story, our family's story, and I think we should confront it together, so we can move forward. Our children deserve that." For a heartbeat, the tension between them lay thick like fog. Jake's heart raced, time felt suspended, with the weight of history pressed against his chest. "What is it you believe will change?" she asked, skepticism sharpening her tone. "Those wounds run deep, Jake." "I know they do," he countered, grounding himself with the memory of Lily's innocent embrace. "But I found the photograph from long ago, of our families when they were together. I can't help but believe that if we're brave enough to find the truth, we can create something new. Something good." Mrs. Holmes' expression softened for the briefest moment before resolve took hold again. "You think it's that simple?" "It won't be easy, but nothing worth fighting for ever is," Jake replied, feeling the heat of determination surge within him. "But if you allow me to explain, the legacy we leave behind is ultimately ours to reshape." Moments passed like tiny lifetimes until a flicker of thought crossed her eyes. "Fine. But it might be the hardest conversation we ever have." Jake released the breath he had unknowingly held. This was only the beginning. As they moved to gather Mr. Home, Jake was struck by a revelation. His fear of confronting the past began to morph into anticipation. Perhaps he could not only uncover the truth but dismantle the fortress of animosity built around it. When Mr. Home joined them, a knot of anxiety twisted in Jake's gut. He introduced the past delicately, gauging their responses, revealing connections of despair and anger, but ultimately of shared dreams once laid aside. "Are you ready to listen?" he asked them both, feeling as though he stood on the brink of transformation. The challenge stirred within him a reminder that confronting the specter of resentment could be a catalyst for renewal. This meeting wasn't just about words spoken but understanding buried truths, a step towards liberation. Would they allow the painful past to inform their future, or could compassion find a foothold amidst the debris? As they began to engage, Jake realized the most daunting struggles lay ahead. The juxtaposition of hope and fear crackled in the air, ready to reshape everything they thought they knew. However, it was as Lily's laughter echoed through the house that brought him back to the present. What was their response going to be? Could they finally choose understanding over animosity? Tomorrow would reveal if this fragile peace could endure the trials he was determined to face. Jake felt a renewed sense of purpose as he looked at the Holmes. This was not just an exercise in reconciliation, it was an attempt to unearth a shared legacy that had been buried beneath years of pain and division. He thought of Lily's laughter, an emblem of innocence, something both families had inadvertently shielded. She had unknowingly become a catalyst for the healing he sought, reminding him that the simplicity of childhood often bore wisdom untarnished by adult grievances. As Mr. Holmes settled into the chair across from them, Jake searched his face for signs of openness. The man's jaw was set tight, a clear indication of the emotional barriers built up over decades. For a flicker of a moment, Jake questioned whether he had overstepped his bounds. Would the Holmes even be willing to listen? But he pushed the doubt aside. We all carry burdens, don't we? Jake started, keeping his voice steady but inviting. Our family's hatreds have been passed down like heirlooms, but it's time to break that cycle. I'm not here to rewrite history, I'm here so that we can understand it together. Mrs. Holmes' brow furrowed as she processed this. She had always been the staunch defender of their family's story, a story that framed each conflict as the fault of the other. Jake could sense the internal struggle. She wanted to believe in the possibility of healing, yet fear anchored her to old grudges. Do you have any idea what it was like for our family? Mr. Holmes interjected, a simmering intensity lacing his tone. We lost so much. We all lost, Jake replied. We all grieved. But holding on to that hurt doesn't bring back the dead, it only deprives the living. Jake felt the heat rising within him, a blend of frustration and determination. He needed them to understand that while the scars were real, they did not have to dictate the future. He sensed a shift in the air, perhaps they were beginning to see it, too. Let us talk about the photograph, he urged, pulling it from his jacket pocket with care. The faded image of two families, vibrant and smiling together, struck like an anchor amidst the stormy waters of discontent. He placed it carefully on the table between them. This was once a moment of unity. What happened to that joy? The silence felt heavy as they stared at the photograph. Memories began to unspool in Jake's mind, echoes of tales recounted by elders, the laughter shared during summer picnics, the joyous sounds of children playing without fear of betrayal. The way it could have been lingered painfully in the air. Those days are gone, Mr. Holmes muttered, the tension palpable. Yet, Jake sensed an ember of curiosity beneath the weight of sorrow. What if we could reinvent those days? Jake pressed, leaning forward slightly. What if we could take only the good and build from it? What would your families be able to accomplish together? Both Holmes exchanged glances, an unspoken conversation passing between them. Jake's heart quickened, perhaps he was making headway. But then a flicker of doubt returned. Would they recoil? Would old fears extinguish any budding hope? Mrs. Holmes broke the silence with a hesitant response. How can we trust that we won't just repeat our mistakes? Trust is difficult when the past is filled with betrayal. Trust is built in the present, Jake responded, contemplating his own insecurities as he spoke. We step forward now, choosing to understand rather than condemn. That choice will echo through our families. But it starts today. Gradually, their expressions shifted in acknowledgement of the weight of his words. Jake could feel their defenses soften ever so slightly, the tension that had gripped the room began to dissipate. Perhaps they were about to take the first step toward understanding their intertwined fates. And just as hope began to blossom, a loud knock on the door interrupted their fragile moment. The sudden noise jolted Jake back to reality. Who could it be, demanding entrance at such a critical juncture? The uncertainty cast a shroud of tension anew. Jake glanced at the Holmes, their faces morphed into a mixture of concern and expectancy. Strains of unease crept back into the warm air, and Jake knew that whatever awaited them behind that door might change everything they had just started to build. What secrets or truths would that unexpected visitor unveil? Jake's pulse raced as the unexpected knock shattered the fragile atmosphere. He exchanged anxious glances with the Holmes, each face reflecting their own apprehensions. The moment felt precariously balanced, like a glass about to tip. He took a deep breath, grounding himself in the resolve that had brought him to this moment. Shall I get that? He offered, his voice attempting to sound steady. Mrs. Holmes nodded, her expression a mixture of curiosity and dread. Jake turned toward the door, each step heavy with the weight of unanswered questions. He opened the door cautiously, revealing a figure he hadn't anticipated, a young woman, likely in her early 20s, with eyes that sparkled with urgency. The disheveled state of her clothing and the dust speckled on her shoes suggested she had been on a journey far longer than just from the driveway. "Can I help you?" Jake asked, eyeing the woman with a mixture of caution and concern. "I'm looking for Lily," she replied, almost breathlessly. "Please, I need to find her." Panic surged through Jake. What did she know? Who was she? More importantly, how did she know Lily? He remembered the warmth he felt moments ago in the Holmes' presence, and he could feel that warmth beginning to flicker like a candle in the wind. Lily, as he started, hesitating, glancing back at the Holmes before turning his attention back to the woman. Their situation was already fraught with tension, adding more chaos could derail everything he had been trying to build. "What do you want with her?" "I promise, it's important," she said, her voice laced with desperation. "There's something you all need to know. Please, I have to talk to her." Another knot tangled in Jake's stomach. The moment felt like it was spiraled beyond his control as he turned back to the Holmes. They were watching, wide-eyed, fearful of what this might mean for their already tenuous negotiations. He could sense the unspoken worry swirling around the room. Had bringing them together already condemned everything? "What do you know about Lily?" he pressed, trying to gauge the woman's sincerity. She hesitated, emotions flaring in her expression as if she were weighing her words against a ledger of consequences. "It's more about what Lily means and what she might uncover. There's a connection I can't explain fully, but it's important. I can help you understand." "Understand what?" Mr. Holmes finally spoke up, his voice deep and authoritative, cutting through the tension. It was a wall of skepticism that Jake found demoralizing yet understandable. "Please, can we step outside?" the woman urged, her tone pleading. "I don't want to speak about this in front of, the past doesn't just haunt us. It hides within innocent lives. We can avoid the mistakes from before if we face the truth now." For a fleeting moment, Jake felt torn. This was not how he envisioned this meeting concluding. Yet he couldn't deny that curiosity gnawed at him. What were the revelations the woman claimed? Could they risk uncovering buried truths, or would it unravel everything they were starting to build? With a deep breath, he stepped aside, allowing her to enter the home. As she walked past him, Jake caught the murmur of an old echo in her voice, something that resonated with memories he thought had been long forgotten. The Holmes exchanged confused glances, each one grappling with the implications of this sudden twist. Would they now have to confront deeper layers of their shared pain, perhaps a connection they had never wanted to acknowledge? Jake squared his shoulders, signaling a silent commitment to press onwards. The path they had momentarily begun to embark upon was now awash with uncertainty, yet he felt a tug of conviction to pursue whatever truth lay ahead. Now was the time to push through the discomfort. The moment of reckoning felt near. But what awaited them beyond these walls? What shadows would this unexpected visitor cast forth, and how would they face the truth lurking within their own histories? Jake's heart raced in anticipation, knowing they were on the precipice of an even deeper confrontation. What startling secrets would unravel with the arrival of this mysterious woman? The woman stepped inside, her presence disrupting the uneasy tranquility that had settled in the home household. Jake's instincts screamed alertness, every part of him was aware that this might alter their trajectory irreparably. He noticed Mrs. Holmes' grip tighten on her chair and Mr. Holmes' brow furrow deeper, mirroring Jake's own tightening throat. "Who are you?" he pressed, grounding himself in the moment. He needed clarity amidst the chaos. "My name is Sarah," she said, scanning the room as if searching for something lost. "And Lily, she needs to know." The urgency in her voice ignited a sense of unease within Jake. "Needs to know what?" he probed, tension coiling inside him. Each syllable felt like a fragile strand holding together the delicate fabric of their discussions. Sarah took a step closer, her intensity flaring. A connection to her past, a threat that lingers. You may not believe me now, but if you trust me, I can prove it. Jake considered her words, feeling the weight of the Holmes' anxious stares boring into him. They had fought to build a bridge of understanding, and yet the arrival of this young woman threatened to shatter it. How could he reconcile their burgeoning relationship with the mysteries surrounding Lily? What do you mean there's a threat? Mr. Holmes asked, his skepticism grounded in a father's protectiveness. What could possibly concern us further? The past is buried, but not forgotten. Mistakes made years ago resonate still. It's about a choice, a nexus of events that could redefine everything you think you know, Sarah explained. Jake's mind raced. He had envisioned methods to mend the Holmes' fractured lives. Yet now, here was an intricate web of familial legacy tangled with the future he was trying to help build. If that's true, Lily deserves to know, he finally said, his voice steadying with resolve. A flicker of relief crossed Sarah's features, perhaps she sensed Jake's willingness to grapple with the unknown. I can take you to her, to where she can begin to understand. A wave of determination washed over him. This moment could redefine not only the Holmes' lives, but his own journey as well. Before he could second-guess himself, Jake nodded. Then let us not waste time. They headed toward the door, and as he turned, he caught Mrs. Holmes' gaze flickering between apprehension and hope. She was now a part of this unfolding narrative, just as fragile as the threads connecting their families. Wait, Jake heard Mr. Holmes' voice. If we're going to do this, we need to understand what we're walking into. Jake understood the gravity of that statement. The Holmes had put their trust in him, and now he had to ensure they remained united in face of whatever awaited them. It was a daunting prospect, but perhaps the shared pursuit could fortify their bonds. Facing Sarah, he searched for clarity in the whirlwind of uncertainty. What exactly are we walking into? Sarah inhaled deeply, gathering her thoughts. The unearthing of truths that have long been buried. It won't be easy, but facing them is the only way forward. With a decision settled in his heart, Jake accepted the realm of discomfort that loomed. This wasn't merely a journey into the unknown, it was a pivotal moment of transformation, a test that could shape his identity, his values, and his ability to lead the Holmes toward healing. As they stepped outside, Jake felt the cool air wrap around them like a veil hiding secrets. What lay ahead was uncertain, yet he could feel the tug of destiny calling him forth. And in that instant, a new realization dawned on him: sometimes, the way forward is embedded in understanding our pasts. Yet with every revelation came a realization: could he truly handle the weight of truths long concealed? As they moved toward the shadows of uncertainty, Jake wondered what he might discover about Lily, about the Holmes, and most importantly, about himself. Each step echoed with promise, but also hinted at the challenges to come. Are you ready? Sarah asked, throwing a glance towards Jake that held infinite meaning. The time had come to face the truth. But would it forge a path to healing or shatter their fragile foundation once more? The journey felt charged with unspoken implications. Each step Jake took alongside Sarah and the Holmes seemed to resonate with his racing heartbeat. There was so much he didn't know about this connection, about Lily, and the secrets that seemed poised to emerge. As they traveled, Jake felt a swell of determination. This was no longer just about consolidating the Holmes family unit, it was also about fortifying his own essence, confronting the demons of his past, and understanding what kind of leader he aspired to become. What exactly is this connection you think Lily needs to know about? Jake broke the silence, turning to Sarah. Their path was unclear, riddled with uncertainty, and clarity seemed a distant flicker. If they were to walk into whatever awaited them, he needed more than vague reassurances. Sarah glanced back, her expression firm yet shadowed by regret. It's about a history that involves more than just Lily, she replied, her voice laden with gravity. It's about choices made by her parents, decisions that have rippled through time, affecting her life in ways you can't begin to fathom. The word struck Jake, raising questions that gnawed at his focus. He was no stranger to the reality that one's past could shape the present, but now he was about to see evidence played out before him. But would seeing the past unravel offer comfort or chaos? Would it unify them or fracture their already tenuous bonds? Every family carries a legacy, he said quietly, almost wishing to convince himself. The weight of leading the Holmes into a potentially treacherous revelation hung heavily on him. The responsibility wasn't only to facilitate understanding, it was to protect them during the unearthing. What if this destroys what we've built? Sarah met his gaze, her eyes unwavering. That's the risk you take for truth, Jake. Choices are powerful, but ignorance is far more destructive. You need to trust that knowing will ultimately bring healing, if not today, then down the line. You're not just doing this for Lily, you're forging a path for the future. Maybe you're right, he mused, feeling the twin pulls of doubt and conviction. But trusting means moving beyond fear, and I can't leap without knowing what's waiting to catch me. Outside, dusk settled over the streets, blurring the familiar into a surreal canvas cast in dim light. For Jake, this was symbolic. Just as the day transitioned into night, he was about to cross into an unknown space filled with possibilities both terrifying and exhilarating. As they approached the meeting point, his mind churned with narratives of bravery, betrayal, and choices that he hadn't made but would inevitably confront. Somewhere in this fragmented past lay his truths about himself, his own upbringings, and the fears that had shaped him in ways he had not yet acknowledged. Jake caught the Holmes' anxious expressions, each face a mixture of eagerness and dread. Were they ready to confront the unseen, the truths that haunted their lineage? He felt a deep-seated urge within him, a hunger to wield this confrontation as a tool for understanding. Focus on what we stand to gain, he whispered to himself as if to incite his flagging confidence. They came to a stop, standing before an unremarkable door that concealed a world of forgotten memories within. As Sarah raised her hand to knock, Jake took a moment to gather himself, breathing deeply. The time for wondering had passed. All that remained was to face whatever lay beyond the door. Whatever happens next, no matter how difficult, we face it together, he finally said, voicing his solidarity. Because in that instant, he felt a shift in himself, not just a commitment to the Holmes but a promise to approach his growing leadership with transparency and compassion, no matter how painful those truths may be. Sarah paused. Are you truly prepared for what you'll discover? This isn't merely about Lily. It's bigger than that. As excitement and trepidation battled within him, Jake could feel a clarion call in her words, beckoning change not only for the Holmes but for his own sense of purpose. Before he could respond, the door creaked open, leading them into the unknown. The next revelation was about to be unveiled, and with it, new complexities would emerge. Would Jake find the strength to navigate this intricate maze of truths and lay a foundation to build upon, or was he walking towards chaos? One way or another, they were about to uncover everything. Inside the dimly lit room, an air of anticipation hung heavily, thick with the weight of unsaid words and unseen truths. Jake stepped forward, a mix of resolve and unease bubbling beneath the surface. The walls, steeped in history, seemed to whisper secrets that had long been buried. He knew that what lay ahead would not only test the bonds he shared with the Holmes but would also probe the depths of his own identity. As they entered, the flickering light revealed an old, dusty table surrounded by mismatched chairs. An array of photographs adorned the walls, each frozen moment a testament to decisions made long ago. Jake's heart raced as he absorbed the fragments of history, longing to untangle the knot of emotions that coiled around him. The pictures felt personal, as if they had the power to lay bare the missing pieces of his own narrative. Do you see that one? Sarah pointed to a photograph of a younger Lily, framed by a pair of adults whose faces struck Jake with an unexpected recognition. That's her mother and father. Their choices are what led us here. The revelation resonated within him. It was as if the very foundation of his understanding of family was about to shift. Jake's mind whirred with questions. What had they sacrificed for love? What were their failures? He could feel his own history intertwining with theirs, his struggles echoing in the choices they had made. It was a visceral reminder that no familial bond was untouched by sacrifice and pain. "We need to understand the full scope, the decisions they made," he said, his voice sharper than intended. The group was watching him, and he could sense their expectations pressing down on him. What if he couldn't live up to their connectivity, their shared experiences? As Sarah grabbed the first album from the stack, Jake's fingers trembled, brushing over the fabric of the past. Each turn of the page revealed a layered story that intertwined the Holmes legacy with his own concealed fears. He realized that amidst this exploration, he might encounter the very demons he had sought to bury. Time seemed to stretch as they absorbed the photographs, the stories woven into each image prompting Jake to confront his own feelings of inadequacy. Was he truly capable of leading them through this murky labyrinth of guilt and regret? "Look," Sarah said, her voice low and intent. She paused at a particular photograph, revealing a hidden bond, a young girl hugging a dog, exuding a profound sense of comfort and trust. That scene struck a chord within Jake. The unseen connection reminded him of his own childhood, moments when companionship provided refuge from turmoil. "What do you see?" she pressed, searching for his insight. It was clear she recognized the deeper layers beneath the surface. Jake considered carefully, a sense of urgency pressing him toward clarity. "It's about loyalty," he said, the realization dawning brightly amidst the fog of confusion. Their strength in vulnerability, a silent promise made between them. As those words left his lips, he recognized a flicker within himself. This was his moment of discovery, a reflection of the understanding he sought both for the Holmes and himself. With newfound determination, Jake glanced at each member of the Holmes family, their expressions mirroring an amalgam of curiosity and fear. "We need to face what this history reveals, not just about Lily's family but about us." The burden of leadership settled upon him more heavily than ever, yet within that weight lay a burgeoning resolve. Sarah nodded, her eyes urging him forward. "This is the beginning of our truths. Each story we uncover leads us closer to healing. It's a chance to redefine what family means." Jake took a deep breath, feeling weight shift. He was no longer just a figure leading the pack but a participant in a shared legacy. With each page of that album they turned, he could sense a path emerging, a map leading them deeper into reconciliation and understanding. But still, an undercurrent of apprehension tangled with his determination. What awaited them in the depths of these revelations? Would the act of unveiling the past forge stronger connections or unravel the threads that bound them all together? With a sense of gravity pressing down on him, Jake prepared himself for the impending confrontation of truths that still lingered just out of reach. He was ready to learn from the past, but could he harness that knowledge to build a future free from the shadows of legacy? And as it always does, the moment of decision loomed ominously on the horizon. What would they discover next, and how would it reshape their understanding of who they were? As the dim light flickered uncertainly, Jake's eyes remained on the photographs, their lingering shadows stretching across the walls like the ghosts of untold stories. Every image was infused with a life that seemed to hum just beneath the surface, beckoning him to dig deeper. He could feel the weight of the Holmes family around him, not merely as observers but as co-conspirators in this expedition into vulnerability and truth. He hesitated, grappling with the burgeoning responsibility blooming within him. This was not merely an exercise in history, it was a confrontation with wounds that had festered over time. The face of the young girl embracing her dog in the photograph almost haunted him, a silent plea for understanding hanging heavy in the air. It was difficult to ignore the parallels to his own life, forcing him to reflect on the ties of loyalty that had shaped his own familial relationships. "You okay?" Sarah's voice interrupted his trance, a simple question but layered with concern. In her gaze, he could detect a blend of hope and apprehension, and it thrust him into a moment of clarity. Jake nodded but felt the knot of uncertainty in his stomach tighten. He was okay, but the truth was far more complex. I think we need to ask ourselves what we're really afraid of. These portraits of love and pain remind us that vulnerability is as much a part of strength as loyalty is. The room settled into a thoughtful silence. Each member of the family seemed to weigh his words, the atmosphere thick with contemplation. Jake sensed the collective breath, each person grappling with their own insecurities. This was more than a quest for information, it was a journey into the heart of their existence, a chance to reshape the legacy that had inadvertently shaped their lives. Sarah's hand rested on the next album, revealing yet another photograph of Lily at a fair, joy captured in crisp colors. Can you imagine what she felt in that moment? Sarah asked, her voice soft but clear. What if we don't just examine the decisions made by her parents but recognize what Lily herself went through? As Sarah spoke, an uncharted territory revealed itself within his consciousness. He realized he had been so focused on the older generations that he had overlooked the experiences of the younger ones, that of the child who eventually became a catalyst for their healing. We're not just uncovering history, we're providing context for a life that is still unfolding, he echoed, the idea sparking a flame of hope within him. I think it's important, he continued, gaining momentum, to understand that each photograph tells a story not only about the past but also about our future. Every encounter holds potential for healing, and those decisions lead us. Jake paused, allowing his thoughts to crystallize to the path we choose moving forward. Every gaze in the room fixed on Jake, their focus steady and unyielding. With increasing certainty, he pledged, we owe it to ourselves and to Lily to unpack these layers. Each truth we unearth can guide us toward a stronger bond, a real connection that honors the sacrifices, the pain, and yes, the joy. The room felt alive, each heart pulsing with a shared energy. Jake could see the flicker of understanding ignite within their eyes. They were not just observers of history but participants in its ongoing narrative, a narrative that Jake now realized he was at the helm of. He took a deep breath, feeling a strange elation amidst the fear. It's time to confront what these relationships mean for our journey. His voice steadied as he spoke, let us move forward into this together. Yet, as they reached for the next photograph, an unsettling thought drifted through his mind. Was he prepared to confront the darkness buried in each story? Would facing these shadows bring them closer together or fracture their fragile connections even further? In that moment, the enormity of the task ahead settled down like a heavy cloak. The walls of the past were closing in, and a whisper of dread tickled the edges of his resolve. Steeling himself, Jake took another breath, ready for whatever revelations awaited them, yet a part of him questioned the capacity of his heart to endure. He exhaled gently, let us delve deeper, he urged, because the real journey has just begun. But beneath the surface of his burgeoning courage, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that darker revelations were lurking just out of sight, waiting to challenge everything he believed about loyalty, love, and family. What truths would shake their foundations, and could Jake truly rise to the occasion? The questions loomed, leaving an unsettling ripple in the air. Jake stood in the dimly lit room, the weight of revelations hanging in the air like a thick mist that refused to dissipate. He felt the pulse of old wounds stirring, but for the first time, he sensed a shift within himself, a quiet determination blossoming amid uncertainty. Today was not merely a confrontation with the past, it was an invitation to redefine not just his legacy but that of the Holmes as well. As they turned the pages of the album, every photograph told stories of triumphs and tribulations, embodying the essence of their familial bonds, both the light and the dark. There were smiles and laughter, heartbreaks and tears. Each image was a testament to shared experiences, forming the foundation of lives intricately connected yet tragically divided by misfortune and misunderstanding. Look at this one, Sarah said, her finger landing on another photograph where young adults seemed invincible, laughing beneath the warm rays of summer. That's what it used to be: community, love, innocence. Her words resonated deeply within Jake. As he traced the contours of unfamiliar faces in the frame, he felt a profound sense of empathy. These weren't just remnants of another time, they were pieces of a puzzle he was determined to solve. They represented a world that once thrived and now yearned for resurrection. What if we start from here? Jake suggested, turning to the Holmes, who had remained silent, absorbing everything around them. Let us acknowledge the joy and the grief. For every mistake, there's a lesson, a chance to learn. These pictures don't just symbolize what was lost, they serve as catalysts, a plan for what can be rebuilt. Hope danced in the eyes of the Holmes as they processed his words, a collective understanding emerging like the dawn. Mrs. Holmes, usually reserved, leaned forward, visibly moved. So, you're suggesting we honor what we had yet not be bound by it? Jake nodded. Yes. Recognizing the beauty allows us to move beyond it together. We can be the architects of our own destiny, not prisoners of our family's pasts. However, honesty is key. We need to speak about both the good and the bad. That comment sparked a long overdue conversation. They began to share stories untold, connecting memories that fostered bridges rather than barriers. It was during these exchanges that Jake truly felt the spirit of healing unveiling itself. Lives intertwined in ways none had anticipated, revealing vulnerabilities in a world clamoring for connection. With every story shared, the walls of skepticism began to crumble, paving the way for something committed to growth. We all loved Lily's father, Mrs. Holmes stated, her voice a whisper, yet it brimmed with conviction. We didn't know how much pain he carried. We made assumptions. We let resentment dictate our relationships. How foolish we've been. A murmur of agreement swept through the room. With that admission, something profound breathed life back into their fractured connections. They recognized the resemblance of their journeys through the lens of one little girl, the innocent heart they aimed to nurture. Lily had forged a connection clean of prejudice, a bond built on the purity that transcended past grievances. Let us make a promise to her, Jake proposed, his heart swelling with purpose. As guardians of her future, we will no longer allow our histories to dictate where we go from here. Together, we will rewrite our legacy not simply for ourselves but as a living testament that the bravery to connect transcends hatred. He looked around the room, seeing their faces lit with resolve. Was it possible that through their shared commitment, they could illuminate generations to come? They could reshape their identities through compassion, a fitting tribute to the little girl who had unknowingly drawn them together. With the air both tense and electrifying, they stood united. As they agreed on their vow, Jake's heart beat steadily with a sense of profound accomplishment, eclipsing the shadows of doubt he had carried for so long. It was time to gather Lily, their collective spark ready to craft a new narrative. Each of them charged out towards the door, palpable eagerness overcoming trepidation. Jake felt lighter, more certain than he had in years. The community's perception started to shift away from the damaged soldier to a committed partner, a facilitator of renewal. As they stepped into the waiting light, Jake caught a glimpse of himself in the window's reflection. Gone was the man marred with fear. Instead, a leader emerged, someone who embraced challenges, who championed growth, who proved that healing begins with oneself. And this newfound courage coursed through him, knitting the path forward, a journey of rediscovery and redemption, one that began in a small town but held the potential to impact generations to come. Together with the Holmes, Jake would craft a chapter filled with healing love, weaving the threads of the past into a tapestry of understanding. The door was wide open now, and ahead lay bright horizons promising a future ripe with possibility. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your likes make a difference. Comment below your reactions and theories about this incredible conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation.